Tougher than Cap's shield, heavier than Thor's hammer, smarter than Tony Stark, even mixed with Bruce Banner. Quicker than the Flash, darker than Batman's past, hotter than the heat vision of Superman days of future past. Comics and comedy, nostalgia, brutal honesty, the web series you wanna see, iconic phenomenally. Maybe just a reminder of what you like to see, so check the comics coming at you on your computer screen. This is iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. Iconic, phenomenally phenomenons, whatever planet you're rocking on, whatever channel you're talking on. What?
Number 10. Silverclaw. This may come as a shock to people, but here we have a relatively unknown character. Silverclaw was introduced in that Kurt Busiek run of the Avengers that I adore so much, but Marvel's greatest sin pertaining to her is that following that run on the team, she's pretty much absent. She was there in a bit of Civil War, but appearing in the one comic that I hate more than anything else in the history of Marvel is unsatisfying. Regardless, Silverclaw appealed to me dominantly because of her potential to be a really cool character. Heck, she managed to hold her own against Diablo. That is no small feat. Her backstory, which I will not spoil because I want you to read the series on your own, is very intriguing, and she brings some great diversity to the team, without any of her more diverse traits becoming the whole of her personality. I could really see her making a return to the Marvel Universe in a big way eventually. Silverclaw basically boils down to a likable, down-to-earth character who's genuinely appalled by and honored to be a part of the colossal world around her. There's a lot of potential to be had with this character, and I can only hope they bring her back to be in the big leagues again. Number 9. Hawkeye. When given a choice between the master marksman of the two universes, I'm always gonna pick Hawkeye. Now, I do like Green Arrow, but that's really only in passing, and it's based on a lot of conditions. Hawkeye's always stood out to me as an intriguing character. For the longest time, he was like the black sheep of the Avengers. He always argued with Cap. He always just knew his way was better, and sometimes it genuinely was better. He rightfully had a chip on his shoulder, and still does. Hawkeye has done some good for himself over the years. He married Mockingbird, who will appear on another list later by the way. He led the Thunderbolts and the West Coast Avengers. He's accomplished. But I feel like a lot of it was hugely involved in his relationship to Cap. Hawkeye is a guy who isn't good with words or feelings, and I like that. But rather than be all Batman about it, he gives people a hard time. So when he's antagonizing Cap or getting in his face, it's because he respects him. In fact, Hawkeye has stated himself that there's no one he respects more. Why? Because Cap saw more in him than just some thief with a gimmick. He saw a good man with the potential to be a great hero. And Hawkeye wanted, more than anything, to live up to that, which is why his relationship with the Avengers is so on-off. He isn't doing it out of some sense of entitlement. Pay attention to how he reacts when other Avengers get on his case. Then pay attention to how he reacts when Cap does it. The man does what he does, at least initially, because he didn't know how to say what he meant, and he didn't want to let Cap down. He wanted to be the man that Cap saw in him. That arc alone says so much about his character that I just can't tear myself away when the two of them are on a page together.
You know, I'm not so sure I want to be part of a team I have to rescue every week.
Number 8. Nightwing. Despite the fact that Dick Grayson is so low on this list, it should go without saying that he's one of the greatest, most accomplished superheroes ever. He's been the leader of no less than 3 different super teams, he's been a member of the Justice League, Batman's most noteworthy sidekick, made himself the hero of a city, and has gotten up from some of the worst tragedies in comics. Even bad writing. Dick's whole arc is centered around the idea that he is done living, no pun intended, in the shadow of the Bat. I am so sorry. And you know something? He's successfully become his own man and then some.
So where are you going?
Let's just say that after running this team for a year, I'm peckish for a little action.
Number 7. Moon Knight. I'll be honest, I started out liking Moon Knight primarily because he looks freaking awesome. And you know what? It turns out there's a lot more to him than just dressing like a boss. Moon Knight is a really intriguing character to me, I suppose because he sort of keeps alive the tradition of the pulp detective stories like The Shadow, but also feels very much like a superhero story. And when taking that captivating aesthetic, yes, I'm a huge nerd, and combining it with the awesome premise of him being this avatar of an Egyptian deity, it just makes him all that much more interesting. But then we can combine that with his multiple identities. Now, in fairness, I always thought the whole multiple personality thing was just a load of bull. Moon Knight's various identities are, to me, nothing more than tools he uses to do his work and that can be truly effective. Unfortunately, Moon Knight's constantly battling with obscurity, and I think that a major part of this is that he doesn't exactly have a stable universe to call his own. His supporting cast is rarely ever consistent, and his list of exclusive adversaries really isn't interesting enough to fill the gap. Nevertheless, Moon Knight is one wickedly cool character that I believe deserves better than what he typically gets. Which is to be insulted by being called a Batman clone on top of other things.
Khonshu is pleased with you, Spider-Man.
That's great. Say hello to him for me. I should be going.
Number 6. Ant-Man and Wasp. When it comes to superhero partners, one duo jumps ahead in my mind before any other. Ant-Man and Wasp aren't hero and sidekick. They're equals, they're partners, and they happen to have a really interesting dynamic that I find it difficult not to find awesome. And while I believe both characters are fully capable of standing on their own, admittedly more so in Janet's case than Hank's, I find that they are at their absolute best when they are around one another. This is because they seem to complete one another as an ensemble, and I don't mean that in just the romantic sense. In fact, I've always found the romantic angle between them to be a tad underwhelming. But Hank is the logical one, he's the cautious one, he's the reserved pacifist. He's Reed Richards without the sense of adventure. Janet is adventurous, and she's fun, she's witty, she's passionate about what she does. They support one another, they balance one another out, and that balance creates a really entertaining character dynamic that I find difficult not to cheer for whenever they're on the page together.
I manage your entire life so you can do this. And it's so boring. So boring.
Jan, I'm mapping insect genomes. What could be better?
Want to join Earth's finest fan base? Oh, that's easy. All you have to do is subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitter, like on Facebook, or support on Patreon. Just follow any of the links in the description or the credits. Publishers beware.